Hi everyone, this is Melissa from the Sola Home Office. I am going to speak slowly and do some introductions and housekeeping, and then we will go ahead and get started because I know people are still signing on. So first, I would like to thank Sam and Andrew, and I'll get you guys, let's get you back up here. There you are. I'd like to thank Sam and Andrew for joining us today. I know that these gentlemen really need no introduction. You're so well respected in our industry, and both of you have been big supporters of Sola from the very beginning. You've both graced our Sola session stage. You've created content for Sola Pro, so you have been not just an advocate for the independent, but especially Sola professionals. So we're so grateful to have you. You two are some of the most kind and educated and wise people that we know, and you become friends to all of us at the home office as well. So we're very grateful to have you here today. And just a couple of housekeeping items before we turn it over to Andrew and Sam. If you have questions, please go ahead and type them in the questions box, and then Sam and Andrew will work to answer those questions throughout, but we're also going to have a Q&A at the end. So if we don't get to anything throughout the presentation, we'll definitely leave time for at the end. So, and also this webinar is being recorded. So if you have to hop off, if you need to access it at another time, this will live inside Sola Pro as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Andrew and Sam.
All right.
Well, hello everyone. Hey Andrew, how are you, buddy?
Good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing very good. I'll go ahead and let you do the welcome. Start it off, buddy.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Sola crew, for having us. As you said, Melissa, yes, we are big fans and big supporters because we believe in what you're doing. You know, it was an interesting thing that started to happen as studio suites became more and more popular. And you know, one of the things that we would always talk about in our classes was that, you know, we want to make sure that education stays a huge part of our industry. So of course, one of the things that we were a little nervous about as we started to see suites pop up was, oh my gosh, are these people gonna get into suites and be by themselves and not continue to grow? But Sola has completely turned that on its head and made sure that we were all continue to be educated and inspired. So bravo to you, Sola. That's a huge part of why we support you, because we know that you continue to support this mission, that even if you're in an individual suite, you're still part of a family. It's still important to have education at your fingertips. So thank you so much for doing that. So
thanks,
Sam,
go ahead. No, go ahead, buddy. Keep going.
So today, what Sam and I wanted to bring to you guys was a conversation around connection. Because of course, Sam and I both have been salon owners. We've also been hairdressers behind the chair. Now our big focus is education, but we're still deeply connected to the hairdresser because that's who we want to serve. We want to make sure that everything we do through our education, even through the tools that we create, are specifically about the hairdresser and the needs of the hairdresser. So as our conversations happen over the last 2-3 months, one of the things that consistently keeps coming up, whether we were in isolation or now as we start to see people go back to work, and God bless those of you in California who are still struggling with this situation, but as we continue to go through this, we know that our most powerful tool is definitely communication and connection. So that's really where we want to spend our time together, Sam, is just really focusing on how do we create those connections? How do we communicate through this new, ever-changing, rapid-paced time? And really focus on where are the opportunities more so than what's wrong, because, hey, that's what we have. Here's what's happening in our world. Let's find the opportunities, right, Sam?
That's absolutely right, Andrew. And I think, guys, it begins with this. It really begins with our hands. So if we go to slide number 2, let's talk about that for a moment. I don't know about you guys, but I find my hands changing during this time. And what I mean by that is that my hands are the main tool that we work with. But I find a lot of things that are happening now that we've gone into this whole change, this period of change, is that we're doing things a little bit differently, Andrew. And what I mean by that is that we're going in and we're cutting hair a little bit differently. I know some salons are saying, Sam, I'm having to send my clients out wet. Do you have any tips and tricks that I could do? I mean, there's so many things you can do, but the energy of what's happening is changing. So your hands are changing, the energy of the salon environment is changing, the energy of the industry as a whole is changing, and we're going to have discoveries as those changes happen. And what's so important is that we take the proper action. So the proper action needs to be taken. Number one, education, education, education is what it begins with. So thank you so much for joining us today. What we want you to do is so we suggest that you participate with us. That's your action for this next 50 minutes, is the fact that ask us questions, guys. If there's concerns you have or comments that you have, we want to see that in that chat box. We might ask you, hey, if you're with us, just type a Y in for yes, but participate with us as we're going through these next 50 minutes. Let's face it, right now, you have to be willing to take a risk as a hairdresser. Please just open yourself up to what you're going to hear, what we're going to talk about, but it's going to require change, and it's going to require taking some risks. Some salons have already done that out there in terms of what they're doing, how they're doing their business, the risks that we're taking in terms of maybe the way we're booking. I mean, you, Sola, are so fortunate because you are in a suite, and maybe it is more one-on-one. So you're very fortunate to be where you're at. And the times are changing. The last one I want to share with you is time. Time seems to be an issue in the salon. Not only is the time changing, but the way that we're booking in the salon. A lot of salon owners are talking to me saying, Sam, I can't double book my team anymore. Or independent salons are going, Sam, we can't double book. We're taking them one by one. So this time has changed. So how do we maximize that? How do we hold on to what we have, Andrew? And how do we get more clients, I think is really, really critical. So what's really important, my friends, is that we have to understand we have to evolve with change and the time, yet it doesn't mean that you cannot still be you, because you can, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. Melissa, will you bring up the we must adapt our approach slide? Because I think this is going to be a big thing that we have to get comfortable with, right, Sam? Is that what worked last year might not work today. And so it's time that we change and we shift. And one of the biggest places that we feel the shift has to happen is how we communicate. So one of those ways is just even behind the chair, because one of the things, Sam, that we've gotten so much feedback on is that people are having kind of a tough time with the energy within the salon, because yeah, people are going through rough times. And we all know that hairdressers, we're kind of like bartenders. We're the place that people come to kind of get things off their chest and like to, feel heard and feel understood. So of course, many of your clients are going to be walking through those doors and they're going to be saying, oh man, so here's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that we wanted to focus on today is how do you kind of shift and adapt your approach, even from that first moment that they walk through the front doors? How do we adapt our approach to help to guide the conversation in a more healthy direction? So, Sammy, I think a lot of us, one of the first things we would do as soon as someone would walk through the door is our first question would be like, oh my gosh, how are you? Well, that just kind of opens up the box for, oh my gosh, here's
Right.
what's been happening. Here's how terrible life has been. And here's, oh my gosh, can you believe that, 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 that. So our approach now needs to change, right, Sam?
Yes, it does. As a matter of fact, let's talk about this for a moment. So I don't know about you, Andrew, but it's the communication happens a lot. Firstly, through this. And then we adapt this perception and everything. So the first thing they're going to see on me is this. And that's going to be that mask. that mask is going to be happening. So here's a great suggestion that we have in terms of enlighten that communication with the mask. Well, what do you mean, Sam? Well, here's what one salon owner shared with me, which I thought was brilliant, Andrew. He said that what he does is every team member has a minimum of 6 masks, but their mask is of different face. One could be them smiling, one could be of them, their mouth open, laughing. So the first thing the client walks in, and every client, they have to change their mask. So the client walks in, sees this mask, and can you imagine, you see this big mask with this big laughter on it. The first thing the client does is like, that's so funny. It's the response from the reaction you get from the visual reaction. So instead of so much like, how are you? The first thing that Andrew and I are going to suggest is get creative with those masks, guys. I mean, it's such a simple little thing. Simplicity is today's brilliance. I need you to get that. Keep things simple in regards to the way you're working behind the chair, how you're working with your hands behind the chair, what you're doing, the way you're communicating. Everything needs to be so simple. And the simple thing of just changing a mask can change the whole perception of attitude when a client walks in, Andrew.
Yeah, and we've even talked to a couple of people that they've created fun signs and things for their salons where it says, warning, this is a COVID-free zone. So underneath it, it'll say, yes, we are sanitizing between every client, but also we don't want to talk about it any more than you do. So let's find something more fun to talk about. So you can have fun with it to kind of set the energy and the conversation in the right direction. It doesn't have to be something heavy or challenging, because people want relief from that space too. They're being bombarded all day from Facebook, Instagram, news channels. We all know what's going on. We're all bombarded with it. So give them a safe space that you can take the weight off of their shoulders and say, hey, you know what? We don't have to talk about this. We can talk about something else.
I think so many times, Andrew, I know behind the chair, I always thought I had to talk what they wanted to talk about, or I'd listen to what they have to say, and then I would respond to that in terms of staying on that subject. But I think a lot of times, guys, call the elephant out in the room. Exactly is what we're talking about. And this is how we adapt our approach. We've given you an example with the mask. We've given you this example in terms of communication. And it's about adapting that approach, but it's about really going through and thinking about, you have a choice here. You can choose to disrupt or be disrupted. Let's say we could go to the next slide number 5. And you'll see that, guys, in terms of people go, Sam, the industry has been disrupted. Guys, come close. I got to tell you something. It's not a disruption. It's just simply an interruption. That's all it is. So we have to embrace this interruption. So you can choose to be disrupted, or you can choose to disrupt. Now let's take disrupt in a positive way, Andrew. So disrupt your surroundings, disrupt the way you work. Like once again, I'm going to share with you some ideas and things that I've been picking up from salon owners and Conversations or other little podcasts and things that we've been talking about doing, Andrew. And one of them is the idea of understanding that fear that happens when they come in. We've talked about that. Calling out the elephant in the room. We've talked about that. But really just discovering, okay, what are the problems? What we need you to focus is how can I help you? What are the problems? Instead of, so what did you have in mind today? Or are you ready for a change? Ask them, okay, let's talk specifically about the problems, because during the time that I've been off, I've taken a lot of education and I've got a lot of solutions that I'm anxious to share with you. So number one, it begins in the setup of the communication when that client first sits down. See, that's disrupting the way that I used to communicate, Andrew, in terms of that when it would come to that consultation process. It's now about, okay, come on now, let's talk. I haven't seen you in months. So let's talk about what's problematic right now. What are some opportunities that we can solve for you? I think that's really what we're talking about. Change that disruption to disrupt and make it a positive thing. And I really believe if you do that, you're going to find that you're going to change your communication skills behind the chair.
Yep. And, here's the thing. things have been hard. They have. Yet, the one thing that kind of keeps coming up, I of course watch a lot of kind of wellness and coaching content. And the one thing that kind of keeps coming up too, Sam, is that people don't tend to change unless we're heavily challenged too.
Yes.
There's some things that have happened within our industry for such an incredibly long time that were no longer serving us. But unless we were put into a situation like this, we might not have changed. And last week on Wellness Wednesday, I had Shannon and Allison King on, and
Yes.
they have 2 salons in Brooklyn, and they have their coaching company called Beauty 360. Here's what was so cool, Sam. Since they reopened, they started to institute um, virtual consultations. So let's face it, guys, you know, a consultation, especially if you're a person that tends to book pretty tightly, sometimes a consultation could be as quick as, okay, so what do you want to do today? Just the
Correct.
usual, you know, these kind of quick, just little bite-sized chunks. And so instead, now they're booking, you know, maybe up to 10, 15 minutes for a virtual consultation with that guest, where here's what's really neat is because that time is set aside as a separate time, it's no longer part of the actual service time. Consultations have gone to a whole new level. They're at 50% capacity within their salon. They're not double booking, and they had their biggest month ever the first opening. And it's because the average ticket went through the roof. And so the disruption that we're going through right now is forcing us to take a different look at our business.
Mhm.
We feel it's an important thing to be doing because the way that we connect with those guests is so important. Think about this. What's different now versus before for Shannon and Allison's salon? It's connection, it's the communication, because they're slowing down, they're taking more time with each individual guest, which allows them the opportunity to have a more thorough guest experience. So we're getting away from this quantity over quality sort of mindset that was really, that was a challenging part for us, Sam. Like I know for me, when I first became a hairdresser in the late 90s, this was when that kind of quantity sort of mindset really was hitting strong. You worked with a full-time assistant and you would have like 3, 4 guests going at all times. And you do that for like 40, 50 hours a week and you'd just be destroyed. You'd just be like burned to nothing at that point. So this disruption that's happening to us, this kind of forced disruption, we can either choose to say, okay, cool. Well, here's my reality. So let's find the opportunity within this new reality. And let's be the disruptor instead of just being disrupted.
You know what? I got to tell you, that's one thing that I hear that's become very successful as a change is these virtual consultations taking place.
Mm-hmm.
And then think about it, my friends, is especially if you have a new client and you have this virtual consultation and she wants a highlight and you look at her and she's a level 2. Now, or you look at the hair so distressed, you're thinking, ooh, that's going to require some maintenance, some time. You know, then you can talk about price. I mean, there's so many positive things that could happen within that virtual consultation. So think about that. And by the way, my wife had a doctor's appointment and the doctor said, let's do a virtual consultation. She didn't have to go to the doctor's office. And guess what? He charged her the same price as an office visit. I was shocked. Now, I'm not saying that that's what we do. What I'm saying is Andrew's got a point here. The point that Andrew's talking about is Andrew's talking about time. Yeah, I know. He's talking about time, how that eliminates that time. I know, so I spend at least an average of 15 minutes talking about, okay, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? But definitely time saving. And I think that's critical in regards to setting up and understanding that communication is what builds the wealth. You know, communication builds your wealth, and we want you to understand that today. That's so important. The world has changed. How we communicate now as a hairdresser is changing. So if we could go to slide number 6, Melissa. But communication makes that connection. Andrew, you know, we live in such a high-tech society. What happened to high-touch effectiveness?
Yeah.
And now I can't, if they come in the salon, I can't do this. You know, that high-touch effectiveness, I can't do that. So now you're saying, well, Sam, what do we do? Guys, I got to tell you something. I mean, I'm going to go back to the past. You know, I'm thinking about, you know, a handwritten thank you note means so much now in terms of making that connection versus a text or an email. So I want you to think about that. And you have the time now to do things like that. Just have them right there at your station. Boom. It's a simple thing to do. Boom. But it's that connection, that little thing right there. Andrew, when's the last time you received a card in the mail? Aside from a bill.
Christmas?
Yes. And when you open up that card, does it have some special meaning to you? I mean, when you look at who sent it?
If they handwrite in it.
Yes. And that's my
That's
point.
the one thing, Sam, like there's a very big difference. Like, you know, it's always great to get a Christmas card. Don't get me wrong. But if it's kind of very apparently that it's almost kind of like this mass manufactured thing where you just kind of typed in a bunch of addresses and it's like, okay, cool, that was a great little thing that I got to see from, you know. But when I see that someone actually took the time to sit down with a pen, handwrite something, that means a ton to me for sure.
Yeah. And then the other thing I want to go back to a couple of things now. Let's get these little bite-sized pieces here in regards to what we're talking about. One of the things too is on these virtual consultations, there's so many apps out there that you can record the conversation. My suggestion would be get the permission from the person you're talking to and record it. So that when they come back in, you've got that recording. You can say, well, let's go back and let's take a look about what we talked about in case there's this pushback in terms of that. So I highly recommend that you do that. The other thing is this, is I'm not quite sure, Andrew, let's talk about it, but I'm not quite sure based upon location or what the mandates are. There's certain things that are mandated. I know some salons say we can't blow dry, or some salons are fearful of blow drying based upon what they've been told. So I think you got to think about that. A lot of salons are saying, well, Sam, how are they working it if they're not blow drying? Some salons are telling the clients come in with their hair shampooed clean and slightly damp, or just shampooed and clean. And then what happens is the stylist will wet it down and they'll start cutting. But then when they walk out, they're not blow drying it. That's when your little techniques of these little quick tricks and tips of braids and things like that really work in terms of that. So let me help you with one. An example would be simply doing applying like Redken's Redken's anti-frizz Rebel Tame leave-in conditioner. Okay, so let's say, for example, it's summertime, guys. You did this beautiful highlight on this blonde. She's going to go out. Now, I would suggest let's put a leave-in treatment. You're going to the pool, you're going to the beach, you're going to the lake, put it in a ponytail, put that conditioner on, do a simple braid of that ponytail, let them go. That's a leave-in treatment right there. So yes, that's an added cost to that, and hopefully a retail sale there in terms of that. I think dry shampoos. Let me just grab one here. But this is a deep clean. I think some of you have seen this one, and I don't have my other one, but I think dry shampoos right now are really an easy retail right now, because there's this no poo movement going on where clients are not shampooing as often. So there's an invisible dry shampoo. This one is deep clean. This one goes 3 to 4 days. Invisible about 2 days, but I also like invisible dry shampoo by Redken because it goes in and it works with a level 2 and you don't see any residue buildup. Then I, believe it or not, Andrew, yesterday at the beach, took the family to the beach and I use this on my knees and get sweaty underneath, and I'll just take a little bit and spray it underneath my knees. Now, I'm not saying it's a deodorant, all right? Don't get me wrong. But what I want you to understand is that's one way that I'll use this. Right now, a lot of upstyles, working with a lot of hairpins, a lot of things like that, spray the hairpins so they have a little tack. So once again, guys, retail. Retail, I don't know about you, Andrew, but talking to salon owners, retail's flying out the door. I don't know if Shannon or Allison talked about that, but retail seems
Yes.
to be flying out the door. Why do you think, Andrew?
Well, for them, what they talked about was, again, they brought it back to that virtual consultation, because that, again, it's like this dedicated space where it's like, this 10 minutes, this is what this is for. This is to talk about your hair, my product recommendations, my service recommendations. So it almost like takes all the fear away from it too, to just have the
Yep.
conversation. And honestly, I think that's kind of part of it. But the other thing too, Sam, that I think is happening out there is our clients are becoming more aware that they need to support us specifically. And I think that is also a huge opportunity that we have right now, because I'm sure, guys, you have people asking you specifically, how can I support you? How can I help you? Because I know that your business has been tough. We keep hearing people saying that they're getting these humongous tips, Sam. Like, people
Tips.
are coming in and tipping 50, 100, 150 bucks. But when your client says to you, how can I support you? Don't be afraid to have that consultation or have that conversation with them that says, one of the best things you can do is to purchase your products here in the salon from me instead of going to Amazon or to a website to buy them. Purchase them here from me, because that really helps support me. And I think people are super open to that conversation right now. And I just want to mention real quick, Sam, Christina from Sola, she's saying that virtual consultations have been a big game changer for her. And Bill Daniels also said that because his clients aren't as comfortable spending tons of time in an enclosed space, that also takes time out of the service process. So that's great too. Like that 10, 15 minutes that they might be sitting there just chatting face to face, now it's like that conversation already happened. Guest walks through the door, get to work
Right
right
to
away.
work. Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
So
think,
cool.
I think it also eliminates that conversation of, well, what have you been doing for,
Hmm.
the last 3 months, 2 months, or whatever it is, but eliminates that whole process.
Right.
Really, Andrew, I think, this is simple. All right. Just a simple ponytail. These, maybe you're not going to be blow drying. Maybe some of you are blow drying, but some of these long hair girls, pulling them back into a ponytail and really just helping them out. And then I would suggest that you're videotaping this for them so that they actually see it. So you're grabbing their phone, putting it on their station, and you have her turned away from the mirror and you're videotaping you doing this on her so she can see how it's done. And I'm talking about just a simple braid, guys. A simple braid just with 2 strands so you get the illusion of a 3-strand braid. And see, this is where I would go in and apply that conditioner. She's going to walk out. But simply what it is you're simply dividing that into 2 sections, okay? And I'm going to move her in closer so that you can see and take myself out of the picture so you can really watch how my hands work. And now all I'm going to simply do is grab that by the palm. I'm simply going to slice that with my index finger, bring my thumb around, open that. Then I'm going to take my thumb and index finger and just connect them on the opposite side. So now this is where my hand is. Okay. Now, once I've done that, I go what I call a claw position. Middle finger comes and grabs this one, thumb grabs this one, and you separate. And now just reposition back into your palms. So it's slice, index finger, open with the thumb, connect with the thumb and the index, claw with middle and thumb, and separate. And then you go back, you do it again. See, now it's these simple little added things are going to add value. Let me just say this. Value is price is what they pay, and value is what they get, especially in today's world. So what we want to ask you, and Andrew and I want to ask you, is what value are you adding to that appointment time? I think it's so important that you add the value. Let me just say it this way. I really believe that as hairdressers, now it's so important you become a consumer educator at the chair, meaning that you're teaching these value added little tips and techniques or tricks, whatever you want to call them. You're teaching these to the client, and you're teaching them with intent and purpose to help them out. That in itself, Andrew, is making the connection. And that's so critical in today's world. Now it's just a matter of an elastic going over this. And oh, by the way, Andrew, I love to coat the elastic with Red Kids Outshine 01. Place it on and so that it buffers the cuticle. So you're protecting that cuticle. And then just a simple little hair hack. Watch what I'm just going to do, Andrew. All I do is just twist the elastic. I keep twisting it. So if the mom has a little skinny ponytail with her daughter and a huge elastic, she's crossing and looping it through 10 times. Look, I just keep twisting and I loop through once and then it's done. So it's simple little things like this, Andrew, that we really have to start to think about adding behind the chair. And that's what I mean by communication builds wealth, by actually being that teacher now behind the chair. And I'm not talking about teaching them how to cut their hair, guys. I'm talking about helping them work with their hands, with their hair at home. You're muted, buddy. Okay, now.
Just kidding. That's where social media is such a great opportunity too, Sam, because this is the kind of stuff that you could be publishing to your social media. Because that's one of the questions we get asked pretty often too is, you know, how do I create content? How do I stay in contact with my clientele? Social media right now is kind of a hot mess. Let's just be totally transparent. So just don't participate in that. You don't need to get into the argument. You don't need to participate in the, do I wear a mask? Don't I wear a mask? Get that stuff off of your social page if that's the place that you want to communicate with clientele. Make your social content about being uplifting, being supportive, being educational. So this little tip that Sam just showed you, guys, this thing is a powerful camera now. I mean, you can shoot in 4K on your iPhone. So there's no reason that you can't jump on there. And I mean, you can film it, you can edit it, you can put music to it. I mean, you guys are way better at it than Sam and I are at this point with the stuff you're building out for social media. So have some fun with it, but make it educational, make it uplifting, make it positive. Because one of the things that we feel is so essential right now, every place that you show up in the way that you want to represent yourself. So here's a little project you can do. Just take a little bit of time, just sit down, get comfy, maybe even pour yourself a glass of wine or water or whatever, you know, but just take a little time to kind of go inward and check in with the heart. How do you want to represent yourself to your clientele? How do you want to represent yourself to your friends, to your family? And I think you're going to all find that those are going to be things like, oh, I want to show compassion to people. Oh, I want to show kindness to people. So let that guide how you communicate with people. And when we say communicate, we mean across every platform, whether that's face-to-face, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever else. What's the new one that everyone's on, Sam, that we're too old for? TikTok. You know, regardless of what platform or what situation, guide your communication in that way, because that is going to set you apart at this point.
Yes. Yeah, so true, Andrew. I mean, social media, guys, we all know how it's really changed the way that we communicate with each other. I think it's so important to understand, though, that, you know, understand people buy people, then they buy things. So that phrase, continuing to make a connection. And you can make a connection through social media, and you can set that up through social media. But I really believe you have to understand social media is your new business card. Let me repeat that. Social media is your new business card. So definitely we encourage you have a professional page. And on that professional page, you manage that page to grow your business. You manage that page to grow your wealth. You manage that page to set you up in terms of who you are as a salon professional at the chair. So what does that mean, Sam? Well, it's real simple, guys. It's real simple to shoot techniques like what I just did. Just get a little tripod, put your phone on it and shoot it so that your social media professional page has these little tips and tricks on it. So what you can do is tell your clients to go to your social media page, follow you, and there's little tips and tricks that you're sharing with them to help them with their hair at home. Let's face it, at-home maintenance is so important now than ever before. I have to tell you, there's times as a hairdresser when they would come in and I would just do their hair and boom, they were gone. Now what we're trying to encourage you is you have to understand that you need to be a teacher at the chair. That's more value to them. So when you define, when I say value, price is what they pay, value is what they get. What we mean by value is just simply knowledge. That's what value is. So what are you adding to that? Added services, you got that down. Added services, especially now, one client at a time, add on those services. You can do that. You've got the time, quality time right now, but it's all going to be based upon how you use that quality time. So now as that color is processing, hear me out, please. As that color is processing, I highly recommend you grab one of these. Grab a mannequin, go to Pivot Point, get yourself a Lydia mannequin, then get a tripod from Pivot Point. And while that color is processing, you're teaching the client how to do things. You're talking to her about the conditioners or how to apply them. You're talking about how to simply brush the hair out with a paddle brush. You see, that's valuable time. That's education time. That communication builds the wealth, because if I was your client and you spent that time with me, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk out of that salon and I'm going to be talking about you. You need to go to my stylist because she's in her own suite. He's in his own suite, and it's one-on-one. And I got to tell you, he or she gave me their 100% of their time was devoted to me. They not only did my hair, but they went in and taught me some simple little things. Let me show you, Louise. This is one of the things that they taught me. So you see, use that time in terms of adding value to the appointment time. And I'm talking about the processing time, that processing time. Another little cool little trick, Andrew, is with these, remember, make a connection. We're talking social media. So another little trick is this, is you talk to a client, Andrew, and you talk to her about, let's go blonde. She's this beautiful, soft brunette. And you're telling her, let's go blonde. And she's like, yeah, you know what? I've been thinking about that. What I would do if I was that stylist and after that client left, I would jump on Pinterest, Andrew. Go to some blondes. Get some photos of different shades of blondes. A soft, warm blonde, a soft golden blonde, a bright blonde, or whatever. Whatever you feel is going to fit this client. Get 3 or 4 photos. Then I want you to text these to her when that client is at work. Hear me now. When she's at work, she gets this text, and it's from you, the stylist. She's going, oh wow. And she shows it, hey guys, I'm thinking about going blonde. Which one do you think I should go? And everybody's like, what? I'm thinking about going blonde. Which one do you think I go? Hold on. No, guys, which one do you like? And they want to know, wait a minute, your stylist just sent you those photos for you to look at to see which one you like? Yes, my stylist sent me these. Where do you go? Where do you get your hair done? You see, that's what I'm talking about, taking the time. Communication builds your wealth, but Andrew's talking about social media, using social media as a time to use as your business card to connect with that client.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome, Sam. Like, I would have never thought of that. And that's one of the things that this guy is so good with, like thinking of these ways to just maximize something. Because, yeah, I was kind of like, as you said that, well, why do I want to bother him at work? But yeah, you're totally right, because they're going to be like, hey guys, look what I just got from my hairdresser. So
Right?
cool.
Well, you know how everybody at work has their best friends. At lunchtime, can you imagine she's sitting around and showing all her friends and go, wow, your stylist sent you that? And then the next question they ask is, where do you go to get? Oh, I go to Sola, my salon. And guess what? She's in her own little space and it's one-on-one. That takes the fear completely away. Because if there's anything people are looking at, and I want salons, other salons out there, you know, I mean, everybody's got to just understand it's a different game. And when the clients come in, their eyes are bigger than they've ever been before. And what are they watching, Andrew? They're watching how clean is this place? did she sanitize for me? Matter of fact, my friends at Sola, sanitize when they arrive. Sanitize when they arrive. Don't sanitize before they arrive. I want them to see you sanitizing. So make that part of that appointment time in regards to how you're booking. But I really feel that makes a big difference in that. The other thing is this, is that, well, I'll get that to the end, the whole think tank, Andrew. I'll do that towards the end.
Okay.
But right now we're
Cool.
talking about social. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that we're hitting the right buttons for you guys. So if you're out there, you have some questions, tap them into go ahead and type them into the chat box. Melissa's helping us make sure we hit some questions. So if you have questions on client communication, client connection, please throw them into the chat box. We'd love to make sure that we hit some of those things for you. But excuse me, yeah, social is a tricky.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Andrew. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, social is a tricky place because, again, we have to run this really careful balance, because back when kind of social first hit, Sam, our recommendation to people was to have kind of a separate business page and to have a separate personal page. That might still be a good idea for you if you want your personal page to have things that are, you know, kind of private and directed towards your friends. Now we're saying show some of your personal side through your professional side too. And that's a really different recommendation from before. And what happens is things evolve and they change and they shift so much, Sam, because back in the day, we'd be like, yeah, your professional page should just be pretty much like a lookbook of your work. Post tons of pictures of the hair you're doing, which still do that. But the thing is the game has changed already once again. Just posting tons and tons of pictures of kind of the same haircuts, the same colors, that's not going to attract attention at this point. You definitely want to have your work on there, and you want to have plenty of your work on there, but don't post every single, you know, highlight that you do, because then it's not something attractive. It's not going to gain people's attention. What lots of people have been doing is creating a sort of a grid pattern where it's like, oh, I'm going to post a quote, then it's a hair shot, then maybe it's a picture of me in the salon with my mask on doing something safely. You know, make sure you're mixing it up and giving them some kind of visual interest, but give them a sense of who you are, because like Sam said, people buy people first, especially right now. People want personal connection. So if you show them some personal connection through their social, if you kind of let them in to your space, you get a little bit vulnerable, and you show them a little bit of who you truly are, that can be really attractive to a new client. And I can say this for myself, Sam, when I was looking for a hairdresser here, when I first moved to Oregon, which was a really weird thing to have to find a hairdresser. You know, it's either been my sister doing my hair or someone from the salons I was working at in Salt Lake. So I moved here, and it was really hard because most of the social I was looking through, it was just pictures of hair. And some of the hair I'd be like, yeah, I like that. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. But there was so little about the person. And even as a hairdresser, I want to sit down with someone that I have something in common with. I want to sit down with someone that I think I'm actually going to enjoy that 45 minutes to an hour that I get to spend with them. So it's important to make sure that that's included in your social strategy, is to show a little bit of who you truly are.
So true, Andrew. So true in regards to social. I think we're getting to our Q&A here. Guys, we're getting ready to kind of open up for Q&A. So if you have any questions in regards to what we talked about, or any questions in regards to maybe something we haven't talked about, get ready to ask those questions. But before we do that, there's something in regards to social that I love to share with people that I think is really important in regard in what's happening out there in social. You know, positivity is so important right now. Everybody needs it. So I think, what's so important when it comes to social is ask these questions to yourself before you actually post something. And the first one is that I want you to ask is, I want you to ask yourself, is it true what you're about to post? Or are you just trying to post something? So you have to ask yourself, is it true what you are about to post? Or are we just making something up just to get a post in for today? Then the next thing I want you to ask yourself is what you are about to post, is it really, really happening, what you're post? Now, this could be hair related, it could be situation related, it could be anything. But ask yourself, is it really happening? Or is it, once again, something that's happening, but I don't have my facts correct? Okay. Next thing I want you to ask yourself, this is really, really important. And this is a lot of things that are happening out there. I want you to ask yourself, because even the clients need this. Is it what you're about to post? Is it inspiring? Is it going to inspire your guests, your clients? Is it going to inspire the people that are actually taking a look at your social? So make sure that it has whatever it has in there, whether it be visually, whether it be text, script, whatever it is. Ask yourself, is it inspiring? Next thing is, what you're about to post, is it really necessary? Ask yourselves that. Is it really necessary? People ask me, Sam, how many posts should I be doing a day? I think 1, 2 max a day is sufficient, Andrew. I don't know how you feel, but I think that's important. Then lastly,
I think can I make one comment on that, Sam? I think the necessary part is huge.
yes.
Because again, I think that we're seeing this kind of flood of content, and there's this pressure that we feel like we have to perform. I can
Right.
tell you, I'm not great at posting often within my page. I haven't posted much within the last like 5 or 6 weeks, honestly, Sam. I've just been kind of taking a little break from my personal social because we've had so much going on, which has felt actually really good. But I can tell you that posting even just like once a week, but having quality content on that once a week has been so much more beneficial than feeling this pressure that I have to post something new every single day. Because if I post something new every single day, for me personally, it doesn't feel necessary. It just doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel authentic. And so, one of the questions that kind of came in was, how often do we post this versus that? That's such a personal thing. But I think asking yourself, is this necessary? Is this important? Is this valuable to my clientele? Is it valuable to that community? Is it necessary to that community? I think that's going to help guide that decision of, am I just posting because I feel like I should? Or am I actually posting because I think it's going to be helpful?
Mm-hmm. And you know what's so important, Andrew? I did a Google search on when is the best time to post. And I did a Google search for Facebook. When's the best time to post for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those social platforms. I wanted to find out when's the best time to post. And, it's interesting when the best time to post is. One of the worst times to post is on Saturdays, and across social platforms. And so it's important, do a little research, guys, and find out. But yeah, that is so critical. I mean, we're giving you some guidelines here, guys, but you are your own personality. You have to decide what's going to work for you. You know your guests, your clients better than we do. The last one I want to give them, Andrew, before we take some questions here, is ask yourself what you're about to post. Is it kind? Yes. I think, I think, I'm not saying that Sola, you guys are such a great organization. You're such a great team. You support each other, but there's so much bashing, Andrew, going on out there. You know what, guys? We're all in this together. It doesn't matter if you're independent, commission, whatever you want to call it. Hey, you know what? You're hairdressers. We love you at Sam Villa. We love you. We support you. You know, I think if anybody's ahead of the game right now, Solo, you're ahead of the game. You guys are in a great position based upon what's happening out there. You're in a great position to succeed. But it's going to be the way how you communicate, the way you set things up, how you move forward. That's what's going to set you up. So Melissa, we could do me a favor, go to slide number 3. Slide number 3, and then we'll take some questions. But what we're trying to say here is the idea of just don't quit. Don't quit. Just because of these things are happening, we're getting bombarded, the industry's getting bombarded. Poor California, we're praying for you. Our thoughts are with you. But what we want you to look for the hidden message that's in that just don't quit. The hidden message is just do it. Do the things that we're talking about. Action, apply the things that we're talking about, and I guarantee you, you're going to continue to be successful. The last thing I want to leave you with, Andrew, is this, is that it's something that I discovered and I came across, and I thought this was so cool. And it's your smile is your logo. That's why I want you to get those 6 different masks with different smiles, different laughter. Maybe do a mask where one tooth is missing, you know, make it funny. But your smile is your logo. Your personality is your business card. And how you make people feel when they walk out of your suite, that's your trademark. That's your trademark. So I want you to remember that in today's world. So Andrew, let's open up for some questions and see what we get for some questions before we start to put some closure on this.
Yeah, we've got a couple here. One of the first questions that I see is, when is the best time to post on Facebook and Instagram? So like Sammy said, there's a lot of this content, you can just do a quick Google search. There's also a lot of social posting software out there. We use one called Buffer. The great thing about these social posting software is it will also give you real-time feedback as far as when the people are most engaged. So you can look at kind of general concepts for that on Google, but the best thing to do is to start to watch and see, when are you most engaged with? Because that might change depending on your audience. So you can do some testing too. You can just post at different times throughout the week and just notice, hey, is there certain times of day, certain days of the week that I get the most attention? Also, what kind of content is getting the most engagement from your audience? Positive engagement. So definitely recommend looking at some of the posting software, because it gives you so much as far as analytics go. And a lot of that stuff's also hidden inside the analytics within Facebook and Instagram too. So you can utilize that.
Great advice, Andrew, because this is what we're talking about. Think before you post. So now, in answer to that question, I just pulled up one of my notes on. Let me give you Facebook very quickly. Here's the numbers on Facebook in terms of when to post. Sundays is the best time to post, Saturday and Sunday, but then Saturday and Sunday, there's certain times. So you get 32% is higher on a Sunday, and it's from 6 to 8 a.m., believe it or not, and 2 to 5 p.m. The worst time to post is 10 p.m. to 4 p.m. Isn't that interesting, Andrew? 10 p.m. to 4 p.m. is the worst time to post. But then again, it says
10 a.m.
Yeah,
10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Thank you, Andrew, for the clarity.
Yeah.
10 p.m. to 4 a.m. is the worst. The best time to post on Facebook is on, let me give you the days, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, based upon what I brought up on Google search. And that's 32% higher on those days. Time frame again, 6 to 8 a.m. and 2 to 5 p.m. And that's just basically on Google search, finding that information. So aside from those platforms that those apps that Andrew mentioned, do a little Google search.
Yes.
Another question, Andrew?
Yeah, this one, I like this one because I think this is interesting. So she says, or they say, I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman. I'm in Santa Clara County, California. We're still not allowed to reopen. Guests think we get advanced info about what's opening up, which you don't. So I get a ton of messages about when, how, where. First, they were feeling overwhelmed. but then realized they wanted to be the source for their clientele for that information, and that could maintain connection. So they're asking, does that sound right? Because sometimes they don't feel like they know anymore. It's the right thing to do. My thought, Sammy, is that yes, being a
Mhm.
resource of information is probably one of the best ways that you can stay connected to your audience. Plus, it's going to keep you ahead of the game. That's one of the things also that Shannon and Allison talked about was don't wait. Get in front of this stuff. Because if you
Yes.
wait, then you're kind of behind trying to catch up with information and catch up with people. So get in front of that stuff. Be the first person to reach out to your clientele. Maybe you set up a email list or maybe an Instagram or a Facebook group that you can continue to communicate on a daily basis. Just each morning get up and say, hey guys, here's what I know so far.
Hmm.
If you need anything from me, I'm here for you. I think that's fantastic. What do you think, Sammy?
No, I totally agree with you. I think California, you're in a situation, California, it could be tomorrow. It could be the day after. Like Andrew said, I totally agree. Get ahead of it because I keep in touch with California because that's where I'm originally from. My salon was in San Mateo, California, so I'm very familiar with Santa Clara. I understand what you're going through because I had a staff of, excuse me, a team of about almost 20 to 25 people, and I still keep in touch with them. A lot of them are salon owners now, and they're, they keep telling me, Sam, it changes every day. It just, it's battling back and forth. But I agree with Andrew. You got to stay in front of it. And once again, I mean, you know your clientele, you have the information, create that email blast, get them all on the your social and use your social, but get ahead of it and keep them posted, if not a daily basis, on a day, on an every other day basis. Come on, my friends, you got the time. So I'm going to ask you right now, how are you using your time? Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you're learning something. Yet you have to plan your day or else you're going to get lost and get caught up into all this vicious cycle of everything that's going on. Stay present, stay focused, focus on where you want to be, focus on being ready to open up the moment they say you're ready to open up. But keep in connection with those clients. I know it's a lot, but it's important. It really is. I hope that helps
Yeah,
them out.
I think so. Yeah, and just there was a couple of questions just based on the fact that we were talking about this balance with personal and professional. Honestly, you have to find your own balance within that because some people are going to really want to focus on artistry. Some people might want to focus more on connection and motivation. Guys,
Mhm.
there's space for all of it. Maybe most of your feed is motivational quotes and uplifting content, and then you're sprinkling in some haircuts and colors. That's cool. Maybe most of your feed is cuts and colors because artistry is your main focus. That's part of what you're showing is who you are as a person. You're representing that through what you post. So, I think Christina said, yeah, lots of her time is at home with the kids. Well, that's a
Right?
huge part of who you are, Christina. And that is so relatable right now to your clientele. Don't be afraid to share a post of like, hey, I'm at home with the kids too. I feel you guys. I'm with you. I understand the challenges that are happening out there for you. I'm here for you. I'm a mom too. Like, that'd be a fantastic post.
Yes. Yeah, I think that this time has really changed the industry. It's just
Mhm.
changed so many things. I mean, I like what you said earlier about take a look at your grid on the feed. And you know how you go instead of doing this, we were talking about it
Mhm.
the other day, how you bring up the grid. Look at your grid and look at the balance of it. Like Andrew said, maybe it's a motivational quote, maybe it's something you did, a finished look, and then maybe it's a picture of you actually in your mask doing something. But look at the flow of that grid and see how does it touch you and what does it do for you. I think that's so important, but that because it can contain everything. That's
Mhm.
I don't know. I just feel that that's important. What other questions? Any other questions?
I think we're good, Sammy. No more questions, and it's perfect timing. I think it's about time for us to wrap up here.
Yes.
Okay.
So I just wanted to pop in on my videos. not turning on, but I wanted to thank you both so much for this webinar, for this education. Questions are out, but I'm seeing a lot of yeses and thank yous. We're just very appreciative of your guys' wisdom, and we love you, and truly thank you. And again, for everyone that's still on, this is recorded and this will live inside Solo Pro, so you can revisit it at any time. But Sam and Andrew, again, you guys are the best, and we're just so grateful.
Melissa, we really want to thank you for the time. I think that everyone out there needs to understand that it is what it is. Now is the opportunity to learn that no matter what happens or how bad it seems today, you really have to understand that you have an opportunity and that life does go on. And you will be better tomorrow, no matter what happens and whatever comes up. But during this time, I just want to share with you that I've had the opportunity to learn that making a living is not the same as making a life. You know, it's really changed. I've had the opportunity to learn that I shouldn't go through life with a catcher's mitt on both hands. I'm learning to throw back. You know, you need to be able to throw something back, guys. And that requires everything that you learn and what you're embracing. You know, I've had the opportunity to learn during this time that life is something that gives you a second chance. So now you have an opportunity here, reinvent yourself as a hairdresser at the chair. Reinvent yourself as a hairdresser that fits in today's world as a chair. I've had the opportunity, Andrew, to learn that even when I have pains, I don't have to be one. You know, I've really learned that during this time about myself. Think about that, how that relates to you about the chair, at the chair. I've had the opportunity to learn that every day you should reach out and touch someone. And we talked about that. So whether it's, you know, people that you love, or it's just that warm connection with a client, it really makes a difference. So thanks, Sola, and continue to have the opportunities to learn.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to leave it with one comment from Ashley. She said, "Thank you for your time. I feel so motivated, so seen, and so understood." And I think that encompasses kind of how everyone's feeling. So again, thank you both.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.